Hey again, everybody, Dr. David Bell, and welcome back to English 203. This week, we begin a transition. You've all written a short story. We've discussed everybody's short story. I'm going to talk in a minute about revising those short stories for the end of the semester, just real quick. But this week, we also begin the transition to poetry. So you have to make sure you have the Steve Coet book in the palm of your hand. You have reading assignments and writing assignments starting out of that. I'll be posting videos discussing those assignments and discussing the readings from the book. So we're moving on to the poetry half of the semester, so make sure you're ready for that. I do just want to pause for a moment and just kind of reevaluate what happened with the short stories. At the end of the semester, as part of your final portfolios, you're going to have to revise the short story that you wrote. I've already discussed every one of those stories individually, but I just want to make a note of what I kind of think is the big thing to think about as you look forward to revising your short stories. Obviously, this wasn't the case with everybody, but this was a pretty common thing for everybody. And this is maybe one of the hardest things to do, but it's something for you to think about as we get to the end of the semester. At the end of the story, you want to have your character, your protagonist, changed in some way. Like I said, you want to start the story letting us know that the character has this desire that we all recognize and can understand. By the end of the story, you want the character to have changed in some way. And they've either moved in a positive sense toward achieving that goal, or they've moved farther away from achieving that goal. And that needs to come about as the result of a choice that the character makes. A lot of times in your stories, things were happening to the character. They were passive, almost victims of what was happening in the story. And they weren't really driving themselves toward the goal of either achieving something or having their desire thwarted. So as you go back and look at your stories, make sure that you're focusing on your characters making a choice. Things aren't happening to them. They are doing something. And then that choice leads them either, like I said, closer toward achieving their goal, or it moves them farther away from achieving their goal. It doesn't matter. They can have a positive, slightly positive result from their choice, or they can have a negative result from their choice, and they can fail. Because that happens in life. But either way, the character has to be making a choice, and they have to be some kind of active agent, some kind of active participant in what happens to them. We don't want to read stories where people are just acted upon by the forces of the world, and they just kind of seem like they're a passive victim. That happens in real life. Things happen to people that they didn't choose to have happen to them. But that's not fiction. In fiction, we want to see the characters making a choice and trying to do something, even if they fail. So as you think about revising your stories, look especially at the ends. You'll note that a lot of my comments in these videos started with the endings and talked about the endings and how we could make the endings more active. So I would look there first with your stories and then move on to the other things that I talked about in the videos. But like I said, starting this week, starting on Wednesday, we're going to be discussing poetry. So make sure you get your hands on the Steve Coet book, either as an ebook or a hard copy, whatever you want to do. And you'll be having reading assignments out of there and writing assignments out of there that I'll be explaining as we go along. So until the next time, thanks for stopping by. We'll be discussing poetry soon, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.